and TESOL presents Free Friday webinars. Every Friday, we gather together and we share tips for English language teaching specifically. But today, we're going to talk about tips for surviving the first week of school. So I'm glad you're here today. And feel free at the end of the conversation to go ahead and you can use the mic and you can ask questions and you can even add your own ideas and input. So we're all here to share together. And also, throughout the webinar, please feel free to go ahead and share your links to any post or resources that you have for any of the tips. Now, these are practical things because I think a lot of times in teacher education programs, we don't get practical things. And the practical things really help because that's the stuff we deal with every single week. How many of you are actually starting back at school? I know in Brazil, a lot of people have already started, and in Argentina, and I know in the U.S. that many people are starting as well. Also, Mariana, in Croatia, you still have some time until September. Wow. So good, you can still implement some of these things. And Nora as well. So, and I'm Shelly Terrell, and you can find all the links at bit.ly, capital E, capital L, capital T, links. And then the L can be lowercase or the rest can be uppercase. First of all, I think when you start school, I think you should start as an idealist. So you were in the previous presentation, you might have seen this slide before. This is from Simon Finch, who is at SimFin. And the UK government did something really incredible, and they asked their educators if they would blog, why they started in education, what kind of education change needed. Well, Simon said, who in e-learning, he says, a great teacher said to me, the purpose of education is change, so I would change the world. I think at the beginning, so let me go ahead and pause my camera so that way the bandwidth's a bit better, hopefully. So I'm going to pause it and then you can let me know if the bandwidth's good. Okay, so how's the bandwidth? Can you all hear me okay? Yes, maybe? So I think, when you do the education and you step into the classroom the first week, be an idealist. That's my first tip. And one of the reasons why you want to do that is because you want to go ahead and you want to be able to, you're going to have the rest of the year to be burnt out. You're going to have the rest of the year to be tired. So the first week, get in with all your idealism and energy while you've got it. Be pumped up because, you always want to start high and up there instead of the other way around. It's much harder to uplift something in my experience than it is to actually be already uplifted. So go into the classroom and have fun with it. The other thing is believe that you can make a difference. Believe that every single live that comes out inside the first day of class, that all of these students that come into your classroom, that you have that mission of making a positive impact and that you can create change. These were some of the students that I first started with, and it was 100 of them, and some of them had ADHD. A lot of them were really energized. They ran around the classroom, and even in Germany, I remember, this was in Texas, but when I was teaching in Germany, I remember going to this camp, and I was at this camp, and the kids all spoke beginner English, and and none of them really understood what I was saying because I spoke beginner German at the time. It was my first English class in Germany. And the kids, it was the worst day ever. It's sort of like, Murphy's Law, where they say everything will go wrong. And it did. I remember I stepped on dog poop. The kids were bullying another kid. They threw paper airplanes everywhere. And it was just so awful that I ended up crying at the end of the day. This is the first time I had ever cried. They literally climbed walls. And the reason why they climbed walls was because there were these designed apparitions that were on the wall. So, at the time, it was a really bad day. And I remember that the next day, I went home and I said, you know what, I can do better. I can find resources online. I can, there's something that I have to change. I have to change the dynamic. And so I made it a mission to just shake it off. And the next day, I went back in again, and I started doing cooperative teaching, and I learned a lot of stuff from Alfie Kohn and things like that. And the way I redesigned the classroom and all of these things, and I really, really, really made a difference. I think that the whole entire teaching atmosphere changed because I went and I made it a mission not to give up. So I'm going to play the video a little bit because it's kind of weird seeing me frozen. So here I am again. If you still have a problem, just let me know. One of the early things that I remembered is engage parents early on. And Larry Ferlazzo, I have a link to this really great blog post that he wrote. And Larry is someone extremely great to follow in let me put his he's so great. He runs a great blog, and if you're an ELT, you have to follow Larry Ferlazzo. He's one of the first persons that I connected with on Twitter, and he's just great. He's amazing. He just writes some great stuff, and he wrote a great book on parenting. And in his thing, he talks about the difference between active involving parents and engaging parents. And most schools, our schools, probably involve parents. They give them ideas. They say, please volunteer, do the PTA, do this, do that, go to teacher meetings, do this. But they tell parents how to get involved, how to join projects already. But a lot of schools don't engage parents. Engage means that parents are active participants. This means they get to make decisions. That's a little bit scary because, a lot of people like to have control of the classroom. But I say take away the control. At the beginning of the year, I have a parent ed tech workshop. And I make, like Mexican food and stuff. And the parents, they see what I do. I'm very transparent. I show them, what we will do online. And then I'll ask them for ideas. I remember when a parent said to me, Shelly, I would really like, the lyrics to English songs. This has never happened in the past. And so I said, hey, that's a great idea. So we put that in the wiki. And so then that parent was very active and always volunteering. Other parents the same way. When they see that you listen to their ideas and you actually implement them, then the parent will become more on your side. It's a way of showing that you're actually listening to the parent. So I think we need to have parent choices. The other thing is when you walk into the classroom, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in the teaching that we forget how students learn best or how we learn best. So your traditional classroom looks a little like this, and you have the board. And I'm not saying this is bad all the time, but there are some problems with this. This is traditional teaching. If you go outside and you observe kids playing in the ground, toddlers, they learn so much. A lot of people say, everything I learned in kindergarten. Look at kids play. Look at their curiosity. Look how they explore. They walk around. They have time to look at things. They have time to question. They really have time to find many answers. They don't just have one answer. They have many answers. And the classroom is so different. Then we put them into schools, and then we have them sit for 6 to 8 hours a day, and we give them and we feed them one answer, and we don't even give them time to walk around and explore. And it's so backwards. So I think that Graham says, don't eat your students. Yeah, that's a very good tip for surviving the first week of school. But I think, we need to rethink the way that students learn and try to implement this in the classroom. So what does your classroom setup look like? Does it support various learning styles? Well, I'm going to show you. You might say, well, Shelly, that's something, easy for you to say. When I was having a really bad week of school, I changed the entire classroom, the way it looked, and it really changed the atmosphere of my school. Oh, sorry, Faisal, I don't know why it's not working. If you can hear me, can you please give me a smiley face in the chat box or something? Or just tell me, yes, you can hear me. Sorry about that. Yes, okay, great. So I think, this is what I found a great classroom, what I think it looks like. Play with your classroom. It may not be as big, but this is what I really like. Okay, so notice this classroom, how it's different. Does your classroom look like that? So they have a group work area. So there's an area where students, when they get into pairs, they look how different that is from the other classroom I showed earlier. This was from actually this is from a classroom that I saw on Flickr. I went through a lot because I didn't ever take pictures of my classroom, but it looked a lot like this. So yes, Norman, that's a great idea. He says Norman Constantine says take them outside and forget the classroom. Yes, if you can take them outside. The Kathy Cassidy, which is on Flickr, and it's in my favorites on Flickr. She has an area for group work. She has an area for the whole class. That's the way my classroom used to look like. We used to have the mat out, and we all would gather for our story time, for our time to get together and talk about things like class discussions. And we'd sit on the floor. We'd sit on bean bags or a pillow, and the kids could take them out. We had a relaxation area. So there's a relaxation area. It has a sofa. When kids are studying in the home, they have a sofa. They can listen to their iPods. Sometimes they do their homework or watching TV. They have snacks they can constantly eat. All of this should be allowed in the classroom. And if you can do it, then I think this is a great atmosphere to go ahead and change your classroom to look like this. My kids were 4 to 10 years old that I taught, but I also taught teenagers, and the teenagers as well had learning stations, and the teenagers as well got to sit on pillows on the classroom floor. So you can do this with a lot, and you can tell this teacher really understands kids and the way schools work, because she put tennis balls in the bottom of the chairs. Why would you put tennis balls in the bottom of those chairs? Because kids are going to drag them. It's the way they are. They're not going to pick them up. They're going to drag them. Exactly. So I really love this classroom setup. So there's also an individualized area, as you can tell. Let me get the arrow here. And this is where, okay, so this is an area for, there's different times in your classrooms so that should be prepared. You're going to have group work. You should have group work within the school year. You should have pair work. You should have whole class discussions, and you should have time where students are just by themselves and they get to work. Kids need all of this while they're learning, because this is the different ways they learn. So here is where the individualized work can be, where, you know, they get tasks at the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the, you know, they get some time to complete these tasks. Over here is where they get to work with their group. There's 4, and that's a good number for group work. 3 to 5 people is the most effective teamwork. And then over here, they're burnt out, they're tired, their brain needs a break. That's the way our brain works, is that we need like 15-minute breaks. It's the same thing. A lot of workforces will say every hour you have to take a 10-minute break, because that's the way that it works. And here's the whole class area. You have different stations. Here they have a technology station. See, this is the same classroom. It's a pretty big classroom. I'm not going to say that yours is going to look exactly like this, but you can get ideas from this kind of setup. This is the technology station. I usually have people sign up in a little sheet over here, or usually mine is over here. A few things. Look at this. The students actually decorated the classroom. This is their work that decorates the wall. Over here, they have books, they have records. So be creative with your learning stations. Learning stations are fantastic because kids do not finish at the same time. So when one of them finishes one task, then they can run over and they can do something productive like play with Legos, or they can read a book that they want to read, that they choose to read. And this works so well. When I set up my class this way, I got rid of a lot of behavior problems. My students that were attention deficit, ADHD, they really just they really loved this kind of a setup, because when they lost attention, they would run to and play the blocks, or they would read, but they were still constantly learning. So that's the way it is with classes. So then you have this kind of setup as well. So over here you have different things. You have it's the same type of classroom, but you have the supplies. Each student has their own little box where they pull out the activities and the supplies, and everything is pre-set up, which I think, you know, really eliminates a lot of things. Excuse me, this is probably a teacher's desk in the corner right there. So this is the way these things are set up, and maybe this will give you some ideas for your own classroom. This is all the same class. Here's bulletin board announcements, and here's even the word wall right there. And then there's, of course, the time. And this is what their library looks like in the class. So it's same. It's just showing you different things. And over here is just the artwork. A lot of the stuff has student stuff decorated with artwork. So when you're talking about the environment, also let students create their learning environment. One of the things we used to do is we used to get this banner board. We used to get a banner, butcher paper, and all the kids could write in it. They could write in their own language and stuff. I had 70 kids actually that I taught in my program in Texas. In Germany, it got smaller. I had 10 kids, and then on the average, and then when I was also teaching in Germany, the English camps, I would have about 16 kids. So then we have this butcher paper, and they could go and they could write and draw all over it. Have them put inspirational quotes. Okay, so a lot of times we like to buy these banners and spend money on these quotes. A lot of kids don't read it. And you know what happens with that is one of my ED students, he destroyed he vandalized all my posters actually. And it was hard for me to get mad because, you know, he would walk around and he would mark all the A's, and it was a learning need, you know. So I was teaching English language to the students, but at the same time, I had students with learning needs. Some couldn't hear, some had speech problems, and all these problems you have, and it's hard to deal with. So what I started doing was letting the students find their own inspirational quotes, because then it's more meaningful. They get to decorate the walls. They get to, then I'm not tied to it. Then I don't get mad at them when they destroy, something of mine. Instead, they find their own, and they tend not to destroy each other's work. I don't know why that is, but the kids are very responsible. But even if they do, then that's a conversation that you can have in the classroom. We can talk about why would you do that. So add as much student work as you can. Let them decorate, let them, draw, things like that, and add to it. So here are some ideas how they can decorate. Get the butcher paper, have them draw pictures, comics. A lot of them would draw comics, put their own quotes in the wall. Other ways students can be part of the learning environment, create their own bulletin boards. Have a person each week be in charge of the bulletin board. That's one of the roles. We have to give students roles and tasks and responsibilities. Learning stations, have each student, have them participate in the learning stations. Ask them what kind of learning stations would you want. I think a technology center is one. I've had podcasting centers. I've had reading areas. And I've asked students, hey, do you have old books sitting around? Do you have books that that you don't read anymore, that your parents don't read? Bring them inside the classroom. Bring your favorite books. We'll check them out. We'll have a checkout system and things like that. So I think, students can really add to it. Have them decorate the learning station. Have them fill it up with different things. Ask the parents to fill it up with different things. So you can even have students responsible for each learning station to make sure that each week have a task, have someone play the role. And these tasks that I'm talking about is that every week I have students in charge of something. Some will be in charge of calendar, or a group of students will be in charge of calendar. Usually it's a pair. A pair of students will be in charge of making sure that this station is clean. And then there's so many stations, like 4 or 5 stations that, the students, that's 10 students there, because that's 2 people per station, making sure that it's clean, that everybody turned in their book. And when I let the students do all of this is less work that I have to do. Then I don't have to be like a little mommy and walk around and say, hey, did you turn this in? Did you turn that? Even with big students a large number of students in the classroom, you can have about, I showed you that first class, that was 100 kids. So dividing them up and having them work together and being responsible for each other is to go ahead and give them tasks and take away responsibilities from you. Then that makes your job easier. You're not so overburdened. You don't have to take care of all these things. The kids can take care of it. The parents can take care of it. Have them contribute to the class wiki. Have them decorate the class wiki or your class website or your class blog. Have them design it. Have them each have a page. Let the students, when the students and the parents become part of the classroom environment, when you give them a little bit of the control and the tasks and things like that, then they are invested in it. It's like us. We don't like to be talked to. We like to feel like we're a part of something. When we feel like we're a part of something, we are on board to make sure that it succeeds. So then they are on board to make sure that you will succeed and you will survive that first week of school. Be preventive and proactive when it comes to behavior. What I mean is don't give students a big syllabus or a code of conduct that's this big that the students will never read. I've tried that time and time again. It doesn't get read. We used to have them sign syllabus. That didn't read. That didn't work as well because the kids, it's all this gobbledygook language. It's rules and it's also consequences that they didn't choose. So they may not think it's fair, and that's easy for them to think, especially teenagers. They say, ah, that's not fair. So what I do is we sit in the middle in the circle in pillows, and even with, like I said, teenagers and even really small kids, and we say, well, what should be the rules? And I write this down on a big poster board or, a flip chart or a dry erase board, whatever I get at the school year. Don't necessarily use technology, but it's great if one of the kids has a laptop and one of the kids go ahead and type these down as well in a Google Docs. Then you can have the rest of the kids, type it in as well. And we come up with a code of conduct. We don't call it the rules. We call it a code of conduct. And then we think about consequences. We don't write the consequences necessarily down, but what I do is then I make this code of conduct that they came out with. We already talked about the consequences. Things that they said, well, if you vandalize someone's work, then you should do this. And what I do is I do not send my students to the principal's office. I think it's a big waste of time. I've had students throw desks at me before, and we talk about things. And the reason is because if I send that student to the principal's office, then that principal is going to have to send him. He doesn't know what happened. He didn't see the situation. It's a second-hand person. And then what happens is they get a demerit or they get sent home. And do you think the kids really think about their behavior? Not necessarily. But if we have a talk and I say, hey, you look like you're having a bad day. I know you can do better than this. I'm really disappointed in you. Why are you doing this? Then we can talk about it. And, I find out the kid had a bad day. And then we talk about it. And you know what? The kid doesn't start doing it again. I've never had a kid act up really bad and then start doing the same. Yes, maybe talking and small things like that. I have other things about that. I think kids should talk when they're excited about things. But the things is that I ask them, what's going on, and then we come to an agreement about their behavior, and that is more effective in my classroom. So I think, we have to be preventative and proactive when it comes to behavior. We have to think of what we're going to do when the kids do really terrible things because we want them to, we really want them to learn, and we want them to be in the best environment for learning. It could be that that they woke up on the wrong side of the bed or something like that. We all have bad days. You have a bad day. I mean, you'll have lots of bad days when you're teaching. It's just the way it works. So I think that when we talk to each other and when we even talk to the kids, then they respect us more because then you're willing to come and you're willing to say, I care about you. I'm disappointed in your behavior. Yes, there are consequences for this action. I'll talk to your parents. We'll talk together and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give you a second chance because you know what? I want to make sure you succeed and I care about you. And that is way more effective than sending them to a principal and saying, okay, you're suspended. You got to go home and think about it because that kid has probably been suspended 1,000 times. And guess what? That kid is still doing the same thing. So I say, why not try it? That's what I do. Unbind yourself from the course book. Look at this girl's back. Kids have these backpacks, and they've actually done studies, and it's so heavy. This is one reason why I'm a huge proponent for technology, because if it eliminates all of this, then that's much healthier for students. A lot of students are getting scoliosis and things like that, and one of the reasons why is because their backpacks are too heavy. You'll see that some kids, I realized sometime, I had a great teacher who once told me, one shoulder is like this. Why? Because I always carried my backpack on one shoulder. So these are things that it's not that the course book, this is an argument for, getting rid of so many course books, having ebooks and things like that, because it's more healthier for kids. It's just healthier for kids. So I think they should be able to move around, with the mobile device. Yes, I'm not used to reading on it, but my niece is. My niece is used to reading all sorts of things. She walks around, she waits in line, she reads, she answers things. That is so much more healthier for her than having a bunch of books that she has to carry around. Try a flexible curriculum. Flexible curriculum means, okay, if you can. I know there's some of you where you have this set curriculum. Well, if you do, see if you can diverge little by little. You know, there was a lot of times when I had a curriculum, and I've been really, really fortunate because my principals and administrators have really let me be a big part of creating the curriculum. I get to make a lot of the decisions. And a lot of times it's because I was in environments where they didn't have it, and they would say, wing it. And I would say, okay, well, that gives me the responsibility and the freedom to do the curriculum the way I want. So that was kind of a good situation for me. But I think a flexible curriculum, because you want the students to help make decisions about it, and you want the parents to help make decisions about it. As long before you go inside the classroom, maybe you're like me. You've already seen the textbook. You know the table of contents. You know the learning objectives that the students have to cover. You know what the tests look like, the standardized tests. So you know what kind of questions and things like that that the kids have to learn. You can still have them pass all those tests. You can have a flexible curriculum. There are many ways to reach different goals, and sometimes, you know, if we're always trying the same way, then it just doesn't work for all the kids. And I've always done things really differently, and I've always been, you know, kind of nervous about the test results, and my kids have always scored some of the highest on the test. You know, I've had beginner students that came to America that learned English, and by the end of the 4 years, they would graduate and they would go to American colleges. And they were beginner students in English in high school. So it was really difficult, but they did really well. And they even passed the SAT, and trust me, not even a lot of American kids can pass that because it's gruesome. Reassess assessment. Okay, so a lot of us, you know, you're going to have a pile of work like this to grade every single day. Get rid of that pile. Have kids grade their own stuff. Have kids tell you, what do you think that you deserve on this? You know, when I started doing hands-on projects and presentations, my kids, you know, had to give presentations, and then everybody would assess them, and they would do it anonymously. Sorry, sometimes my pronunciation is a bit whack. So I would have them sign these anonymously. They would turn them all in, and they would tell me, okay, what kind of grade do you think this student deserves, and why? And then I would ask the student themselves, what kind of grade do you deserve after seeing the rest of the work, and tell me why. And then I would already have a grade in mind. And guess what? This eliminated a lot of the paperwork and things like that. They got real feedback. They would see some of the feedback because I would collate all the feedback and just, you know, leave it anonymous. But that they would see the reason why they were given the grade they weren't for their project. And then I would give them goals. I would say, okay, so this is your learning goals. These are the goals that you need to reach by this time and this time and this time, or around that time. And all of them would be kind of, they would get to do the goals with me. They would say, you know, I would say, this is what we have to cover. This is in the learning objectives. And so this is what I need to know. I need to know where you're at the beginning. And I need to know realistic goals that you and I and your parents and the rest of the students in the class can help you reach. And for some students, it's going to be different. Some students, you know, they're going to start here, you know, with the reading levels maybe, but maybe they're really good at something else. You know, maybe they're great presenters. Maybe they're good writers. Maybe they're great speakers. Maybe they're great at listening. So at each level, and they all set their own goals. And then every, you know, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, we assess them. We say, so how are you with that goal, by the way, that you set? And remember, you told me that you were going to do this with the goal. You remember you said you were going to read the newspaper 50 for 5 minutes a week, or remember you said you were going to watch English TV for 5 minutes a week. Remember you said that you were going to. Did you do that? And then they'll say yes or no, or I did my homework or not. And I keep them, you know, caught up with that. But they become very specific in what they can do to help improve their goal. Integrate technology effectively. You should have fun with technology. I showed this in the last presentation I did this morning, so maybe you've seen this before. But when you do technology, make sure that the kids, the curriculum should drive the technology. So I'm a big proponent of doing projects and things. But what I say is, okay, there are different ways to present. Some of the kids will not have technology. Maybe they'll have a computer. So maybe they want to do a PowerPoint. Okay, do a PowerPoint. Some of them will want to do a Prezi. Some of them will want to do a Glockster. Some of them, I've had kids where they played, their classmate played the guitar while they presented. That was great for me. Some of them showed realia. Some of them showed storyboards that they created on poster boards. For the kids, I let them use the technology to show things, but it's part of the project. It's a presentation tool, or it's a creation tool. You can create a video on a webcam, or you can create one online, or you can create one with a digital camera, or you can create one with a phone. They're all videos at the end. They all meet the requirement for the project. So that's what I think has to happen is give the student choices. What kind of technologies do they want to have? And then you don't have to have a room full of technology. I usually have, I bring my own technology a lot. So I have my laptop, I have I let the kids bring in their technology as well. And then they share with the ones who don't have it. And I've never had a problem with that. And then I've had them, I've had them use their own laptops and things like that. But it also, I have a phone, I have an iPad, I have a smartphone. So each of the groups, and I have them work in groups a lot of times for a project. And what I do is I give them each task within the group. So they get the individual grade, but they also get the group grade because I have to give grades. But I ask them, what kind of grades do you think you have? And everybody assesses each other. But at the same time, they choose what kind of tool they want to do. They can decide to do a podcast. They can decide to do an electronic newspaper. They can decide to do a regular newspaper. It's up to them. But it all accomplishes the same goal. It's still multimedia. And then the other thing is to have fun. At the end of the day, that's what the first week of school should be. It should be a lot of fun. It shouldn't be so much stress. Like I said, you have the rest of the year to get stressed out and burnt out and all these other things. So try to have fun in that first week, and you don't have to be a teacher rock star. You don't have to be the favorite teacher. You don't have to be a class clown or anything. Be yourself, but have fun doing it. You got into this field because you like it. Move around, wear comfortable clothes. One of the greatest advice I got from a teacher trainer was wear tennis shoes. So I would, walk in with my heels, and then I would put them away, and I would change into my chanclas or my tennis shoes, and I would walk around because that way I can walk around and I can facilitate because that's my job. The teacher trainer used to say, you should, at the end of the day, teachers should be in great shape. And at the end of the day, they should be tired. They should be tired because they were walking around being guides and facilitators with their students. And this was right. So I did less of the talking. I had the students talk a lot more, and I walked around and I, facilitated. Well, and then show them your passion. Don't be afraid to show kids that you really care about them, and also the parents. And I think it's good to be transparent because at the end of the day, the parents see everything you do for the kids, and they really are on your side because they say, this teacher must really, really care about my child, because then they wouldn't do all this to help my child. And once you get the parents on the side, and once the kids have fun, and your class isn't the same class where they're sitting down, they're facing, and they're grabbing all this information that you try to stuff in their brains, or they're doing worksheets for 8 hours a day. That's so unhealthy. It causes carpal tunnel, that causes back problems, that causes diabetes in kids. Because kids don't get to move around most of the day when they're at school. Kids should play. They should explore. They should realize that there's not one answer. There's lots of answers. And the only way they're going to get there is by we're being very, open to and flexible to their learning. And we allow them the ability to explore. So have fun. You'll be great at surviving the first week. Remember, you're doing a great job. It takes a lot to be an educator, so I really appreciate the work you do. And if you have any questions, you can always tweet me at Shelterrell, or you can have my email and share your back to school stories. But try something different. Try stepping out of your comfort zone. Try having fun, and go ahead and tell me how it is. Even if it's even if it's bad, or you have days where you cry, because I've been there too. So if you have any other ideas for how to be survive the first week of school, let me know. And I'm more than welcome. There's probably plenty more. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for coming twice, Sue. Thank you for those of you who came to the sessions today. If you want to use the mic, all you have to do is click on the mic and you can use it. You can ask questions or offer ideas. Or if you have any blog posts, feel free to offer the blog post up here. Yes, Arzu, thank you for coming. Hi, thank you, Matt. Matt says, thanks, guys. Y'all rock in ways that you don't understand. Oh, thank you, Ming Hong. Thank you for coming. Oh, I will. He's being very naughty today. Roscoe the Pug is not very good. In play games, it doesn't have to be all about technology. Some of the best class lessons have been for us throwing balls to answer questions. Going outside and having a lesson outdoors. So, oh, thank you, Luis. It is great to see you here. Well, have a great day. I'm going to stop the recording unless anybody wants to speak in the mic, and let me know now. Forever hold your peace. Yes, games. Games are a great way to learn. And if you have any blog posts, include them, and I'll put them with the bit.ly link. Oh, Faisal? Okay, so Faisal.
Hello, do you hear me? Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot, Shirley. Well, I think that yeah, the first week is the most important week for the teachers and for the students. Uh, I think that in the first week, it's not a matter um, that for the teachers to show their muscles for their students. I think this is what happens, what's going on in the Arab world. I mean, especially in Jordan. Well, I think that teachers need to raise their students' awareness about the learning language strategies. That also other things that we should, I mean, teachers should share their students in, I mean, in writing lesson plans, in designing the materials. I mean, even in writing the tests themselves. I mean, we need to take the students' roles in assessment itself. I think these are very important points that we should take care. Also, the first week is very important for the teacher because we need to be very close to the minds of our students. So teachers need to gather and harvest uh, as as much as possible information about their students. They need to make a profile about each student. We need also to deliver questionnaires to know that what is their best learning style. You know that we have different learning styles, uh, kinesthetic and audio and visual, tactile. Also because so the delivering the questionnaire might help the teachers and the students uh, to make a match with the learning style of their students with the, I mean, best teaching, method. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Faisal. That was great. And in the chat box, they also had some other great ideas too. Like Sylvia was saying that that's a good time for students to learn about each other. And Sylvia actually put a good blog post out there that students should learn. And yes, that helps build community. So I think that's a great idea. And then Rasha said that they should also have icebreakers, and I think that's a great idea to have games and icebreakers um, for the first game. And there was the toilet paper roll, and I think the toilet paper roll is where each kid grabs a piece of toilet paper, and as many pieces as they grab is how much they have to tell about themselves. And you can't tell them. You just say grab, the toilet paper pieces, and some of them will do like 30 because they want to grab the whole thing. But yeah, so
Hello?
hi, we can hear you. Oh, poor kid. Tarasha is saying that one kid told us the family history. And then I'll add that, Sylvie. Thanks for that blog post. I'll add that to the links. And Joel, I don't know why you're not able to do the. We heard you for a little bit, but then now it says that you're mute. I don't know why you're mute. You can try again the mic and see if it works. I don't know why you're mute. Well, thank you all so much and have